Welcome, everyone. Today is June 19th or June 20th, my time anyway. And we're here with Tom Ryan and Barbara Engelhardt, his wife. I'm Kevin, Tom's son. And today's topic is meeting Barbara. These are some of the collected memories of Tom's kind of a memoir. Okay, guys, so here we are, meeting Barbara. And for the first time, we now have Barbara on screen. Yes?
Hi. Yes. I'd like to introduce my wife, Barbara. And her name is Barbara Engelhardt. And my name is Tom Ryan. So we have different names, last names. And that's because we have children, grown children. Barbara's got 4 children and I've got 4 children. And to keep, straight their names and so on. So that's why we kept our names, even though we're very much married. And so we want to tell about how this all happened. I right after Marilyn's death, I was devastated, and Kevin called from Tokyo and said, "Why don't you come over, Dad? I'll show you around Japan. You have nothing to keep you there now." I said, "You're right." And so I did. And it was a wonderful trip. He of course, can speak Japanese and English both. So he was able to really, and knew Japan, and show me the best spadites. And he was a great tour guide. And I slept in Henri's bed, and she had to sleep on a tufan in the TV room. But I had a good time and enjoyed their family and the meals I had there. That was a wonderful time. So then I came home and had to go back to the old life. So Barbara, you want to tell them how we first met?
Well, yes. The first meeting was in the new member class. I think Tom's already talked about that in another episode. But when we both found out that we had connections with Elgin, that was a really interesting moment for me. And I was really anxious to talk to Tom about his time in Elgin and to tell him that I indeed was born in Elgin, although I never lived there. My parents lived in Barrington, which is a neighboring town, and at that time the hospital was in Elgin. So we talked briefly at that new member class, and then the next Sunday, all of a sudden I was looking for Tom and he wasn't there. He wasn't in church. And the next week he wasn't there, and the next week he wasn't. I thought, what is going on here? Because I really was kind of interested in this guy. And so finally he came back, and then I found out that he had been in Japan with you, Kevin, and your family, and that he had been visiting you. So that was nice to see him back again. Well, then shortly thereafter, there was a program that I wanted to go to in Greeley. A friend of mine knew a fellow, a young man who was from Pakistan. He was a Pakistani Christian, and he was now studying at CSU. And he was staying with my friend in Greeley, and he was going to give a program at her house that afternoon. So just kind of on the spur of the moment, without even thinking of it, after church, we were kind of standing around in the fellowship hour. And I said, "Does anybody want to go with me this afternoon to hear a Pakistani fellow talk about growing up Christian in Pakistan?" And Tom says, "I'll go." And so, oh, okay, that would be lovely. So we arranged that he would pick me up that afternoon and drive us over to Greeley, and we would hear this lovely program.
Now, CSU is in Fort Collins, though, right?
Yes, at
And
Colorado State University.
Colorado State University. And Greeley is about 15 miles east of Loveland.
Yes, yes.
Northern Colorado
Yes,
University
that's
is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tom came into the house and we stood there for a few minutes talking. He noticed that I had a book on the table by David Brooks. And he said, "Oh, he is one of my favorite Republicans. He's what I call a thinking Republican." And I said, "Well, I happened to see David Brooks at the University of Chicago because I had gone to an alumni program there the summer before when he was the guest speaker for our alumni gathering. And this was in 2008. And it was in the middle of the presidential campaign. And David Brooks, off the top of his head, could say very interesting things about each one of the presidential candidates. And so after that meeting, I bought his book and there it was on the table. And so we immediately bonded over David Brooks, our thinking Republican.
After all the talk going over to Greeley and back in the car, we just talked constantly, and we agreed on so many things. Not only David Brooks, but we even realized that we had both read War and Peace, which is a 1,000-page novel by Leo Tolstoy about the Napoleonic Wars. And Barbara had read the same book about the same time when we were both about 20 years old in college, living far apart. We didn't even know each other then. But that was just an example of, and then we agreed that we're thrilled when Obama finally won the 2008 election. And so we had right away, we had religion. Well, we belonged to the same Presbyterian church. We had politics. We were agreed on that. Those are the three big arguable things that can spoil a marriage. So we were off to a good start.
And other things we had in common, we both had 4 children. 2 of my 2 daughters have beautiful red hair, and Tom's 2 sons have beautiful red hair. So we thought that was a fun bonding fact for us. Both of our spouses had died. We both felt that we had very successful first marriages. And that was another reason that I felt that Tom and I could do well together, because we weren't coming from homes that had been, difficult. So we felt that we had that in common, stable family lives. And then, let's see, when was it?
Sorry, Tom had been about 3 years without Marilyn, right? And
yes,
about 3 years. And
yeah,
Barbara, how long have you been without Ivan?
He died in 2002, so I was about 7 years.
Okay.
About 7 years after he died.
Most of your kids live in Loveland. No, actually, just a couple.
A couple of my kids live in Loveland. Dan and his 3, and Jenny, his wife, and then their 3 children, Sterling, Alex, and Natasha.
And the others are away.
Julie lives in Loveland. She's a nurse. Dan's a firefighter. The ones who live out of town are David, my son, who lives in Minneapolis with his wife, Maureen.
Oh boy.
And their daughter, Chiara, lives in Paris right now. She's a French translator, teaching English as a second language in Paris. And then Catherine, my daughter, lives in New York. She works at Columbia University. So that's a little.
Wow. So, yeah, right. So same with the Ryan family as well. 2 kids away, 2 kids in Loveland.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one living overseas.
Right.
yeah.
So that we both love travel. That's another thing that we bond with. our love of seeing new places and doing new things. And so that was interesting. And then we found out that we had friends in common. The Carlson family. John Carlson was a good friend of Tom's. He was in the Kiwanis Club. And it happens that the Carlsons went to Mountain View Presbyterian Church, which was where I was secretary and organist before retiring and then moving to First United Presbyterian. The Carlsons were such a dear family. Their two boys, Paul and Mark, were my piano students. And so I thought for a get together at my home, it would be nice to invite the Carlsons and invite Tom, and the four of us could have a nice evening together.
And this is the house on 6th Street, right near downtown Loveland. Yeah.
Yes,
Barbara's house.
my house.
We had two houses.
Yes, he was
Running
on
back
this-
and
he
forth
was on
between my
this.
house and her house.
Yes, yes. So I was all in a flurry. I just cooked up a storm. But I am kind of a procrastinator and kind of forget things once in a while. So I was in the middle of making my spaghetti sauce, and the doorbell rings, and here's Tom. And it's an hour before I was thinking he would come. So I said, "Oh, hi, it's good to see you. Would you mind running to the store and getting me an onion? I need it for my spaghetti sauce." "Oh, okay." So he did that. And he was just so agreeable to everything. And he brought flowers. And it was just a wonderful evening that we had. And after the Carlsons left, he and I sat talking in the living room for at least 2 more hours, always just telling more and more about each other and our life experiences and so forth.
We were both teachers. Barbara taught the piano, among other things. She was secretary at the church. And so we had that in common too, both having been teachers.
Both big talkers too.
What's that?
Both big talkers as well.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
I don't consider myself a big talker, but
Well, she's learned how to do that, I think. We had a problem. We wanted to get married, but we had some money. We each had a house, and who was going to get our inheritances, and so we wanted to keep our money separate, and we didn't know how to do that if we got married. So we went to see a lawyer, and Stan Matsunaka, his family had been interned in the Japanese prison camp, so that's a whole nother story. Anyway, Stan said, "I can fix that in about 15 minutes." And he got out the papers and he separated our money so that we could get married. So then we planned getting married. But before that...
Which I think is probably a good time to seg into the next episode.
Okay, we'll talk about how we managed to get married.
This was Meeting Barbara, and we'll continue on with Marrying Barbara in the next episode.
okay.
Okay,
That
great.
sounds good.
Wonderful.